Recording in progress.
Let's do the 4 limitless contemplations. May all beings have happiness and create the causes of happiness. May they all be free from suffering and creating the causes of suffering. May they find that noble happiness which can never be tainted by suffering. May they attain universal impartial compassion, free of worldly bias towards friends and enemies. Semchen damje dewatang dewe jutang denpa jujik, dungal tang dungal chichu tang drawa jujik, dungal mepe dewa tampatang mindrawa jujik, nearing chaktang nitang drawe tang jempola nipa jujik. So, I know you said you'd be late, Luce, and just phone Marion to get what I was talking about before, because I know you'll be very interested in it. So today we're going to do part 2 of a Buddhist peek into the story of the Wizard of Oz. So we'll take another whole lot of things today and just carry on the whole thing. But I think there's been a lot of feedback from a lot of people in terms of the whole story of the Wizard of Oz. I think people are really sorry, Mim, what's wrong?
Mel, have you put off whatever you normally put because your main picture's not up.
Okay, here we go. Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, I forget. So we're going to do part 2 and finish the Wizard of Oz. And then next week, let's have the question and answer session. And I'll try and bring Lamayeshi in for that. And then we'll have about 1 more week before the end of the year, believe it or not. I mean, it's really unbelievable, but the year's already gone. And so the end of November, I am stopping. I'll do something lovely for the last one, and then we'll break for the year. But you'll have lots and lots of things to watch for during the holidays that you want, and of course, other beautiful teachers. So let's get back on the yellow brick road on our journey with Dorothy to see the Wizard of Oz. Why is she going to see the wizard? Because Glinda, the good witch, says he's the one who can help Dorothy to get back home. But why does Glinda tell her this when Glinda knows it's not the truth? And I'll come to that a bit deeper just now, because she knows, and this applies for all of you, if Dorothy goes on the path and experiences all the parts of herself, all the negative and positive things she'll encounter, she'll then discover that she has the ability in her true nature to find it herself. But our habit conditioning, this is so important. Our habit conditioning makes us believe the solution is out there and not in here. And so Glinda knows, she'll have to learn to confront herself step by step. But when we confront ourselves step by step, we really have to be very patient, because the habit momentums keep coming back, even though the awareness has started developing, and it takes a while to change completely. So it depends how deep your karmic imprint is. But when you want to change yourself in your life, it doesn't happen so easily. And so it's very important that all of you know, and I've taken that lovely autobiography in 5 chapters. I want to read it again, even if I've told you about it before, because it's really important for all of you when you confront your own projections, your own shadows, your own negative sides, your own positive sides. You've got to know that your habit momentum, your karma, your karmic imprints influence the way you see things and the way you do things. So in the autobiography in 5 chapters, it goes. Chapter 1, I walk down the street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I am lost. I am hopeless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. Chapter 2, I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place. You know, that frustration. But it isn't my fault. It still takes me a long time to get out. Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it in there. I still fall in. It's a habit. My eyes are open. I know exactly where I am. It's my fault. I get out immediately. Chapter 4. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Chapter 4. I walk down another street. Okay. That's very important, but it takes a long time. It absolutely takes a long time. Trust me, because even if I look at my Buddha nature, and my Buddha nature really wants to help and serve, but when I hear my husband's comments to Lama Yeshe, I think I still got the same habits of responding, you know, in a cheeky way or whatever the case is, not in my lovely, compassionate way. Takes years, maybe lifetimes, to actually change your habits. It's really, really important. And the only way we can change is to realize our true nature. And it's really important. And it's quite funny because when I'm teaching a particular thing, I seem to get people coming to me who all fall under the categories of what I'm looking at. And all I've been telling everybody last week is, yes, but there's a different view. If you look at your true nature, there's a different view to what you're going through. And if you can see it, number one, that's very, very good. And number two, if you can see that it is not some outside force that created this situation, it's your very own mind that creates it because of your karmic imprints. It's so vital that you understand that. And I've been trying to tell that. And if people are not on any pathway, it's quite difficult to tell them when they say, look what I've been through. It's too terrible. Look at my family and everything. It's very difficult to tell them, you know, but did you know you created this situation? What? You know, it's not someone dishing out something to me. We really have to understand that. And you can really challenge me on that because it's an important thing. But Namkha Norbu says, since we recognize that external appearances are merely ornaments, you know, your room still goes on without the ornaments or embellishments of the real condition of existence. Appearances which arise to the alert six sense aggregate, taste, smell, sound, you know, and everything, are self-liberated into their own condition whenever they arise. Since we recognize that pure presence is just primal awareness, as such, the manifestation of our passions and karmic traces are self-liberated into their own condition whenever they arise. So difficult now in the story of the Wizard of Oz, when the wicked witch, when she captures Dorothy, and then when the scarecrow comes to rescue her with her other friends, the witch lights him. She lights his straw, and Dorothy, in throwing water to stop the lighting, it goes over the witch, and the witch dissolves. Now, this is what Namkha Norbu is talking about. She just dissolves after the water's thrown at her because she really was only a projection of your mind. The wicked people in your mind are projections of your mind, even if they're leaders or friends or whatever that give you a hard time. They are your projections. And all it takes is awareness of your true nature, and they no longer have that power over you. So that's why the wicked witch dissolves when Dorothy throws water over her. She's not even aware that she's going to dissolve her, but she's gone the minute water comes over her. So she never was real. She was just the stories Dorothy was telling herself in her mind. Now think about the stories you told yourself, even at school, when you were thinking, you know, why is this teacher so nasty to me? You know, what she got against me and everything. We are not wise enough to say, my karmic imprints have put me with this authoritarian person. And what am I supposed to be learning? It's a different perception completely. And Namkhai Norbu says, karma is always something which belongs to the level of Sem. Sem is your ordinary human mind, while pure presence or Rigpa lies beyond the limiting function of the human part of the mind. So this is really, really, really important, okay? So when we land in various difficult situations like Dorothy does, okay, it forces us to confront, firstly, our shadow aspects, our fears, our limitation. Secondly, when we confront these difficult things, it gives us the opportunity, open portal to unity, to find the qualities of our true nature. Now, the person who wrote the story of the Wizard of Oz is so tuned in, because the three qualities we need are wisdom, compassion, and courage. And those are the three characters that she meets in the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the fearful lion, the opposite of them. And as soon as those three, in their love for Dorothy, have an opportunity to actually save her, they develop those qualities. Why do they develop those qualities? Is it a fluke? No, because the qualities were always there. They were just three characters within us that forgot we had those qualities. Does anyone want to say anything? Because it's very, very interesting. Because, you know, the actual Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the lion represent the shadow side of those qualities: wisdom, compassion, and courage. And they represent the shadow side of the qualities. But if you look at your mandala, your own Vajra mandala, you've got Vajra body, Vajra speech, Vajra mind, Vajra qualities. And those are in there, your Vajra qualities. They're your natural qualities. And Vajra activities. Those are the action accomplishments. So when she's going towards the Emerald City, it's very, very interesting, because from a Buddhist point of view, she's heading into the green land. And the green land is the Emerald City, which is green. And she is going there because in the green land of Amoga City and Samaya Tara of the green land, that's where your action accomplishment comes. And she goes to the Emerald City and finds her action accompaniment, if you look at it from a Buddhist perspective. So the person who wrote the story really needed to know a lot, really a lot. So does anyone want to say anything before I go on? Not you, doggies. I ask the people. Anyone want to ask or say anything? Please do. You're all perfectly in order. I'm glad. I'm definitely not, but you all are. So that's very good. I mean, you all are. But anyway, you've got to take all the actions of the stories, whether it lies within, and the path stage is even a delusion. It has no reality. That's what Yeshe Tsogyal said. So when you go on the yellow brick road, step by step by step, and when they sing, stop it, Jack, stop. When they sing, we're off on the yellow brick road, we're off on the yellow brick road, it's just your step by step by step by step, all the features of what you are doing, okay? And to go back to when she lands in the land, I mean, the hurricane is her turmoiled emotions in her sweet little innocent way, like she can't understand why she isn't loved the way she wants to. And somewhere over the rainbow, she'll find that beautiful love. And how many of us actually think that all the time, okay? You have to go on that journey and you have to find what you need to find. And the shadow is really the part of us that you repress or split off so people won't see it. And the minute you see it, it just dissolves because it actually is the beautiful quality. So when you look at your shadow and you say, I've got this feature, I've got that feature, I've got this that I keep doing, I've got that I keep going, what we do is we deny the existence of the shadow and we project it onto other people. So you know what they say, when you point your finger, there are 4 fingers pointing back at you because it's your projection onto someone else of your stuff, but it's really your way of bringing it into consciousness, facing it, and dealing with it in a completely different way. Are you all okay with that? Okay, it's very, very important. Now, when she meets we're going to go on to the Tin Man, but when she meets the Scarecrow, he already has a brain. All he wants is a brain. And if you convert the brain to wisdom, you know, he already had it. And later when they're going through the forest, and it's very dark, and Dorothy's very, very scared, the Scarecrow says, I think it will get darker before it gets lighter, which is a key philosophical insight. You must go and watch the movie, if some of you manage to watch it, because when you see it, it's delightful with the songs and everything, but at the same time, it's got such deep meaning. It really, really has got deep meaning. But whichever way we take on the path, we've got to understand that the Hinayana is walking slowly, step by step. The Mahayana is when you now are really caring for other people, and it's a little quicker than the basic one. The Vajrayana, okay, is when you really involve yourself with what's going on and try to find the freedom, the transmutation of everything and the fulfillment. And it's really, really important because Chogyam Trungpa says, if you're looking for external magic, if you're looking for a savior, then you will just bind yourself instead of freeing yourself. So when they go on the path and they say, we're off to see the wizard, because, and they have to find a reason, because we're always finding a reason. Why are we doing things? We're not really sure at all. Okay, now, when she meets the Tin Man has rusted solid. He's also immobilized. Now think about all the people that you know, maybe yourselves, maybe not, who have rusted solid and immobilized themselves. The Tin Man could have journeyed up the yellow brick path ages before he rusted, but he was busy deciding and contemplating his life and concluding that he was hollow, that he didn't have a heart. The heart is the compassion. So all he did was tell himself these stories about himself, you know, and concluded that he hasn't got it and he hasn't got the heart. In the meantime, what he shows up in the story is that he's the sweetest thing, loving and compassionate. And he already had those qualities, but he never believed he did. So he completely immobilized himself. So when Dorothy and the Scarecrow come, they see the little jar of oil, they oil him, and first he's quite scared, you know, to get to go, and then eventually he starts talking. And then he asks him, do you think if you go to the Wizard of Oz, do you think he would give me a heart? And Dorothy says, well, he says, do you think he'd give me brains or a heart? They asked Dorothy. She says, I couldn't say, admits Dorothy, but even if he didn't, you'd be no worse off than you are right now. Very interesting answer, you know. Just go for it. If there's a chance for you to get it, why'd you go for it? Stop telling yourself all these stories. Stop immobilizing yourself. Just go for it. Do it. Take a chance and go and do it. Do any of you feel a little immobilized on your pathway? Because it's a really important thing that you oil yourselves and move forward with a lot of courage that you have. So in other words, when she says to him, Even if you didn't get it from the Wizard of Oz, you'd be no worse than you are now. In other words, he's already learned the lesson, and she's saying, stop wallowing in self-pity. Set an aspiration and pour positive energy into it, because your karma is your own creation and only you can transform it. Learn the lesson of the karmic imprints and do not hold on to the goal or the outcome, because it's very likely to turn out differently. Right? Very likely to turn out differently, okay? Before you can recognize your true nature, you have to transform and let go of your insecurities, your habitual conditioning, your guilt, your compulsion to control others, your need for approval. We all need that approval all the time. You know, it's unbelievable, because when you don't get it, you can't do it. And we have to begin accepting things as they are in every moment. Okay. So when you look at that shadow side, it's really an awakened side. We just can't see it. When you've got anger, it's really mirror-like wisdom. When you've got jealousy, it's really action accomplishing wisdom. So each part of you, and what's fascinating in my prayers is that every single part of you, the 8 objects of your consciousness, you know, you've got 8 objects when you see something in your human consciousness. And when you do the prayers, you actually, when you die, they actually get transformed. They never were that. They were only that in your perception, in your opinion. So get a grip on what you think of yourself. Get a grip on, you know how many people I say, give me your whip. Just give me your whip. Okay, I want your whip. So that you just can't whip yourself anymore. I always do that. It's like a standard thing in my God. Give me your whip so you can't whip yourself anymore. You know, people go all the time, yeah, but I did it and I feel so bad about it and I can't manage this and I can't do that and I can't do the other. Whip, whip. I say, just take a whip and just whip yourself. It's a lot easier. When do we get over the fact that, of course, we're not perfect human beings? We're spiritual beings having a human experience, not human beings having a spiritual experience. Therefore, we're going to have all the faults, all the karmic imprints, all the human consciousnesses, everything we're going to have, okay? And to acquire what we really want, we have to give up attachment to the outcome, because the outcome is really, you know, we want a particular outcome and we have to give up that attachment to the outcome. Jill, just mute yourself, please, Cooks, because otherwise we get problems with the picture. Good, thank you. So, you know, to acquire, we have to give up attachment and take the steps. And then the rest comes spontaneously. That's what the story of the Wizard of Oz is really about. When the scarecrow lets go of his preoccupation to get intelligence, he becomes a brilliant problem solver. So I've got a lovely quote here from Lao Tzu. He said, when you look for it, there's nothing to see, no thing. When you listen for it, there's nothing to hear. When you use it, it's inexhaustible. That evoked a smile on Damika. It's inexhaustible. Anyway, so Chogyam Trungpa says, all the chaotic situations in Vajrayana are never rejected, and certainly not in Dzogchen. But in Vajrayana itself, the chaos is not rejected. He says the chaos is good news, because he says the lion's roar is the fearless proclamation that any state of mind, including all the emotions, is a workable situation, a reminder in the practice of meditation. It never was true. You can change it completely and totally. It's very important. Now, when they meet the lion, it's very interesting because he is trying to roar. He's trying to be a brave hero, and he is terribly lacking in courage. And I told you last week, in fact, this Joey Green says he's a little bit effeminate. Okay, so for today, I don't know if they meant that when they wrote this in 19 whatever, but he's a little bit effeminate and he hasn't got the courage in any way. And he represents the type, the part of us that doesn't have the courage to make the spiritual journey. Courage in Buddhism is called fearlessness, or the lion's roar. To follow the Vajrayana path, you have to have fearlessness. You have to be prepared to face your shadow. You have to confront it, and you have to go forward. In Vajrayana, we are subjected to all kinds of experience and have to endure them to become awakened. So if you look at the stories of Naropa, Milarepa, Yeshe Tsogyal, they are the path, the yellow brick road. They are that. So all three inner characters that she meets on the road are represent those who are stuck. They're stuck. The scarecrow, he's already got the ability of the wisdom, but he always lets others hold him back. He doesn't have the confidence that he is a great philosopher. He doesn't have that. So the scarecrow is held back by his idea. The Tin Man is paralyzed by indecisiveness. Is that familiar to you? When you can't decide, should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do this? Should I do that? And Bern, I always go back to Ekong Rinpoche. I was talking to Lama Yeshe yesterday about Ekong Rinpoche, and I was standing there when you said to him, Rinpoche, should I go to Australia or shouldn't I? You said, all my family's there, but then I leave Melanie and all the groups here. She said, I don't know whether I should go. And his answer, if you go to Australia, it's okay. And if you stay here, it's okay. She said, no, Rinpoche, you can't give me an answer like that. She said to him, he was saying to her, don't look outside yourself for an answer, because if you stay, you will find a pathway. It will have beautiful things. It will have difficult things, but you'll go, it's okay. That's where your karma will take you. If you go, you'll find difficulties, you'll find different things, but it will be okay. Why is that? Why is that? Why does a Lama say it's okay? Because in the end, it's your nature that's going to resolve this, nothing else. So if you go that way, if you go to the right, when she says to the scarecrow, which way do I go? To the Wizard of Oz. And there are 4 directions. So he goes like this with his arms, to show. And he's got the wisdom. But whichever way you go will take you on a different journey. Some might be longer, some might be shorter. But you have to have the courage to know yourself. Do you all understand that? It's really important, okay? Because the Tin Man is paralyzed by indecisiveness. The lion lacks courage to make the spiritual journey alone. They all want an external being, the Wizard of Oz, to give them what they need. And the question we ask is, in how many religions does this happen? You know how many people tell me, the rabbi said, the Lama said. I feel better if it's a really enlightened Lama. But sometimes the rabbis, they tell you what they want you to believe on their journey. I mean, I'm sure lots of times they give you very good advice. But when do you find that advice inside you? It says, I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to go on this journey. And if it's wrong, and it's interesting because a lot of people who emigrate, I mean, I'm sure all of you that have emigrated know that when you first emigrate, it is tough. It doesn't matter what the story is. It is tough when you're adjusting to a new environment, new people, new everything. You've got to know that it's tough for the whole family if you've got a family, and for you. And you just have to go through it because you've chosen that path, not with indecisiveness, with courage, which is really, really important that you do that. So what we're looking at here is that in many religions, you know, people go to the religious leaders and say, what must I do? Now, if a religious leader has really got a great ability to know, he should actually say, what would you like to do? What do you think you should do? Rather than take the power from you and make the decision for you. And you know, that's very, very important, but we're always looking to an external thing. And if you really are a good teacher, you should actually say, what do you think? How do you feel about this? Because this is your journey, your stuff that you need to confront, your insecurity, you're not really understanding what you've got. Now, it's just true, because what the minute we went into religions, we had duality. Even God, Jesus, all of them are the ones that tell you what to do. But it's not true, because basically you have to find it in yourself. You have to find the God in you, the Jesus in you, the Moses in you, rather than going. You can go and get advice, but you need to look at your own self and make your own decision. And then if it doesn't go right, like I know lots of people who emigrate, every single thing is blocked in their life because that clearly wasn't the right road for them to take, or they were running away, or they were this, or they were that, or they were the other. But even then, you can go through that and know that it's okay if it's not wonderful. But what people do when you ask them, how are you getting on? You know, unless they know you really well, they'll say, oh no, everything's fine and we're loving it. And they tell their children we're loving it. And meanwhile, everybody's not talking. They're all looking at each other and very unhappy. Just be truthful. If someone says to you, how is it? You say, it's bloody tough. Once you can say that, then you're confronting the shadow side, which says it's not okay if I've made a mistake. You can make a mistake and you can even go back on your mistake, or use your fearlessness to go through the mistake to know that eventually it might end. Now, when Dorothy, the wizard, is a very interesting character, the Wizard of Oz, because getting to the Wizard of Oz is a whole big drama. First of all, the Wicked Witch puts these poppy seeds into the plants on the way on their journey, the three of them. Oh, just let me go back to the lion. You know, they all three feed each other and try and help each other to have courage. And in the end, the lion, in his love for Dorothy, is very courageous and he frees her. So he gets the courage because it always was inside him. But what is very important is when you see all the fraudulent people in the journey, because everybody comes to the Wizard of Oz, and these lovely little people in the Emerald City, I told you the Munchkins were these good people with ethics. And very often, to be a good person with this is right and this is wrong and this is how it is and this is how it isn't, you can be really deceived by people because you're not going beyond the dualistic human consciousness. So you can't see. So of course, these brilliant people like the Wicked Witch of the East and the Wicked Witch of the West, they come and control people like that. And in the God realm, you know, when you finished in the God realm, you hear all these stories of mythology where it's absolutely beautiful, and they've got food and they've got servants and they've got everything they want. And they don't make any decisions further because it's like a blissful world, which is higher than the human realm. But in the end, they've got to come back to the human realm and start again. And when they die, according to the text, it takes them a long, long time to die, and they have to go through terrible things when they die. So let's say that in this temporary, transient world, you need to go through a lot of things. It's par for the course. So the wizard is a very enterprising man. What happened was he was sailing in a balloon and he landed in the Emerald City. And when the people saw him coming in there, this is our rescuer. This is going to help us, because they were subjugated by this horrible woman who was the wicked witch. Okay. So what the wizard did was he was very enterprising. He went into a palace. He put himself behind, he had a little technology. He put himself behind a curtain with a microphone. And then when people rang on his palace door, he ran out. He was the doorman to check out what was going, but he pretended he was the doorman. He said, "You've come to see the Wizard of Oz, the great Wizard of Oz." He really capitalized on people's ignorance, and he went behind the curtain with a microphone, and he was all powerful. But the minute Dorothy and her 3 little friends came, he said, "Can you get the broom of the Wicked Witch of the West?" Because he thought the broom would give him real power, So the shenanigans would go on. You could think, well, this is a lovely story, but it's not. It's the story of life. You know how many people get into shenanigans in religions and in different cults and different things, and they believe everything in the external. So this wizard was a very powerful man. He was the doorman, he was the horseman, and his balloon landed there, and he was opportunistic. So he set himself up behind the curtain to give these lovely, so he was the doorman. He let them in, and then he quickly ran behind the curtain, and then people came for advice to the wonderful Wizard of Oz. Now, Glinda sends her to that, knowing he's a fraud. Why? I'm going to come to that in a minute. I mean, why didn't she just tell Dorothy? She said, "Dorothy, if you want to go home with an om in the middle, if you want to go home, that means to come back to your true self. Number 1, never take the ruby slippers off. That means never forget about your awakened nature. Number 2, she wants her to have all these awful experiences so that she can confront all the characters in the story. So she can confront her shadow, she can confront her lack of whatever she's got, and then finally she'll find her way home herself, which is exactly what we've all got to do. So some of these brilliant Buddhist teachers force us to go on journeys that are going to knock us into shape, even though they know that there's a much quicker way. You were right in it when you started off. So what happens is they go because they want the brains, the courage, and everything from the Wizard of Oz. So they go to get the broomstick. And what happens is the Wicked Witch puts all these seeds into the poppies. So when Dorothy's walking, she's going, "I'm getting so tired," because all the stuff from the poppies are coming in her. But Glinda, the good witch, knows what's happening. So she brings snow, which will take away what the Wicked Witch has done to the poppy. So they get there, but they get captured by the Wicked Witch, or Dorothy and Toto get captured, and the 3 of them have to really come and find and rescue her. And they do. And in this awful journey into the castle of the Wicked Witch with the winged monkeys, they all get their courage, their compassion and their wisdom because they love her so much. So the opportunity really gives them that. And then I told you, she sets the scarecrow alight to get rid of him. And Dorothy runs and gets water and throws it to stop the scarecrow and throws it over the Wicked Witch, and she's dead. Okay, so that's the end. So all the people of Emerald City are also celebrating because the Wicked Witch is dead. But now they come to the Wizard of Oz. And guess who finds the truth of the Wizard of Oz? None other than Toto the doggy. So what Toto does was he goes and runs behind the curtain and barks, barks, barks. So they all come to see. And there's this ordinary man with a curtain and a big microphone. And he's actually a complete phony. Okay, and Toto sees him. But then he tells the truth to them and he gives these external certificates to the scarecrow for being so, to the lion for being so brave, to the scarecrow for getting brains. He gives him a diploma. He gives them each a diploma in what they're looking for. And the whole thing of this is, I mean, what do we know after we get these degrees and after we get all these things? I can tell you that I knew nothing, even getting a doctorate, okay? But it gave me the piece of paper to go to places. Now it's not even relevant to me, but it gave me the piece of paper to get in on this level of consciousness. But what did it teach me? Other than the practical things that I did when I did my two theses, other than the practical things, I learned zero. Okay? I learned zero. So I'm no better than anyone else. It just exposes the phony things, you know, of what we do, but it does help you on an earthly level. So the wizard promises Dorothy that he will take her, he promised her he will take her in his balloon back to Kansas, because that's what she's come to get. Okay, in the meantime, I can't remember what she was doing. She was doing something and she missed him. He appointed the Scarecrow, the Lion, and the Tin Man as the leaders of Emerald City. Okay, he appointed them. He was leaving now and going off in his balloon. So Dorothy missed his balloon. So Glinda comes and Dorothy says, now how am I going to get home? And Glinda says to her, you know, oh, Dorothy says the wizard was a bad man when she finds out. And he says, I'm not a bad man, I'm just a bad wizard. Okay, you've got to look at all these things and see the roles and the phony things that we do to ourselves. It's really an amazing thing, you know, but now they've all got the Lion's got his medal for bravery, the Tin Man's got a testimonial for his heart, and his testimonial is, a heart is judged not by how much you love, but by how much you are loved by others. Such an interesting thing. So nothing to do with nothing to do with that, giving those very valuable lessons. And then she misses her chance to travel in the balloon, and Glinda tells her, Dorothy, you've always had the power to go home. You don't need the balloon. You don't need anyone else. You've always had the power to go within and find your true home. And Dorothy awakens to the realization that her heart's desire is an inward journey, not an out one. But she had to learn this for herself. And so do we. Even though we're not going to the Wizard of Oz. You know how many Wizards of Oz there are all over the world when I hear some of these leaders and what they say. Because Dorothy learned impermanence. She kept saying, my, people come and go so quickly here. Those are your dream figures that you have in your dreams. They come and they go. And she learns impermanence and to be in the present moment. And she learns that the sweet gullible people in Emerald City could not give her what she needed in this life. What she needed were her own circumstances at home were the best for her learning. If you look at her karmic imprints, she was her karmic imprints of being orphaned and getting this uncle and aunt that didn't love her. Tell me that what she had before was an inability to love people. And she's born and feels so sorry for herself and sings all these songs and wants everything externally. And that clears her, this experience that she has in the dream, clears her karmic imprints. And when watching the film, all the people in her life get projected into her dream. Miss Gulch, they're archetypes. Miss Gulch, the Wicked Witch, Professor Marvel, who looked in his glass bowl. You must watch it, please, in the holidays. He looked in his glass bowl and he saw she was running away, didn't have any clairvoyant power. He told her to go home. And that was when the hurricane hit. She went into her dream state. And then she had this whole big dream, okay? And the three workers in her aunt's farm, the one said, Dorothy, don't do these silly things. You really need to have wisdom and a heart of compassion and courage. He was telling her in advance about the characters she was going to meet on her journey. So these were all part of the whole movie. And when she awakens in her bed and Aunt Em says, oh, it was just a bad dream, this is when she realizes that they were all the people around her bed, the workers, her auntie, they were all the people in the land of Oz. And Joey Green says the land of Oz is very clear to You know, it's an interesting thing. But you have to, all projections in your mind, like the Tibetan book tells us. So in the book, The Zen of Oz, you know, he says here, when Dorothy learns to stop allowing other people to control her life, when she stops putting her faith in others to solve her problems, when she discovers her inner spark, she attains Satori, the Zen experience of awakening. When Glinda tells her, you've always had the power to go back to Kansas, Dorothy awakens to the realization that her heart's desire is an inward journey, not an outer one. And though her true self may not be apparent, it still resides deep within. Belinda explains that she did not share this truth with Dorothy earlier because Dorothy had to learn it for herself. Now, when we meditate, let's look at the lessons you've had to learn in your life. I've had to learn millions, okay? Millions of lessons. And which were the repetitive ones? And what are the most painful ones? What are the lessons you had to learn? Instead, Glinda tells Dorothy on arriving in Munchkin Land, the sooner you get out of Oz altogether, the safer you'll sleep, my dear. Despite the fact that Dorothy is welcome to stay in Munchkin Land, where the Wicked Witch of the West has no power, protected by the ruby slippers on her feet. When Dorothy asks how she can possibly return to Kansas, Glinda insists, the only person who might know would be the great and wonderful Wizard of Oz himself. But this isn't true at all. The wizard isn't the only person that Dorothy can get back to Kansas. Glinda knows. Why is she lying? And why do the Munchkins bow reverently at the mere mention of a wizard who is obviously unable to free them from the tyranny of the Wicked Witch of the East? It's possible that Glinda is just being obtuse. She specifically describes the wizard as the only person who might know how to get her back home. The wizard might know, unlike Glinda, who definitely knows. She says he might know. Also, unlike the wizard, Glinda's not technically a person. She's a witch with supernatural powers, thus making the wizard the only person who might know. Okay. And that's all pretty semantics. Glinda is telling Dorothy a half-truth. Why does she, a self-proclaimed good witch, intentionally mislead Dorothy and send her on a perilous journey fraught with danger? Doesn't that make her a bad witch? Strange as it may seem, he says, a Zen master's role is to intentionally mislead the student by putting obstacles and barriers in the student's path. Interesting. Okay. Because the basic intention is to help, but you cannot be helped unless you find out for yourself. Knowledge cannot be taught, it must be gained from experience. So experience isn't the best teacher, it's only the only teacher. So it's a koan. You know, in Zen, you've got koans. Those are the riddles that they give you. So everything that Glinda says to Dorothy is a riddle. And Glinda knows she's safe as long as she wears the red slippers. As long as you are in touch with your beautiful true nature, you are safe. No matter what you're going through in the temporary, transient dream state. And that's really all what I want to say, because it's really important. She has to come to the present moment, and she doesn't understand why. She knows the scarecrow, the tin man, and the lion. She keeps saying to them, but I've known you all before. Of course you've known them before. They are your inner shadows. You've known them so well. You have to embrace the present and see what it really is all about. And that's the story of the Wizard of Oz. Lots in it to contemplate. You're to come back with your questions next week. Ask the questions. So if I've got such and such a problem, what am I meant to be learning from it? If I've got this wrong or that wrong or this darkness, how am I meant to be getting on with it? You've got to ask these questions, because everything is a projection of your mind. It's actually fascinating. Correct. At least Bern's nodding her head. So, Zika, is anyone else nodding their head? Does anyone want to say anything? Please do. We're going to meditate, but just please say or ask. There's so much stuff here. You could actually take each thing and teach hours, which I'm obviously not going to do. I just want you to become aware from this story of how much you project your mind's things. You project all the time. And every circumstance that you're in that you hate, it's very important.
Mel, life in hindsight is very, very easy. But I'm finding now, maybe it's the aging thing, that it's also very much more, there's just no expectations anymore. I don't have expectations. It just moves as it's supposed to, and I don't get bogged down by stuff anymore, where it's...
You don't have to explain. I absolutely understand, because I walk through, you know, and I wonder often, I mean, why am I in this situation? I'm at an age I should be going into retreat. I should be, you know, leaving this world sort of and going into, happy to teach, but I should be maybe going into retreat or, you know, having long time. And I can see there's probably not even going to be time at the end of the year. I'm coming to Australia, as a lot of you know, and everything. And we've got this wedding of my grandson, and it's going to be totally involved with all sorts of things there. And like, I want just time to sit and contemplate. Yeah, but there isn't that time. So I could say, no, This is all wrong. But I know if I even asked Lama Yeshu Rinpoche yesterday, would have said, your karma, you're doing, everything that you are in is the perfect situation for you to be in. And best to get enough energy to do what you have to do, because it's your creation. So there's no good saying, how come I'm not going for 6 months into retreat or a year or two? You know, I want to go into retreat and really deepen my practice and everything. I've got to deepen my practice while I've got 1 foot there and 1 foot there. I've just got to never, ever let go of the ruby slippers, you know, because if I let go of the ruby slippers, I'll just slip into that whole world. And then one day, I'm sure in the very near future, I'm going to come to the doors of death and say to myself, well, now I'm coming through. Yeah, but why didn't I do more? Why wasn't I more ready? We have to make ourselves ready, even if you've got a lot of responsibility. Because the responsibility is your projection. Yes, Tamika, please.
When you say it's your own creation, you
Yes.
mean it's your own creation in your mind?
Well,
Whatever this,
yeah, well, everything is a creation in your mind. But your mind has the human side. Okay, your mind has the human side, which creates the samsaric beliefs and perceptions. And your mind has the enlightened side, which sees things completely differently. So all that you see is illusory, but some of it is pure illusion and some of it is impure illusion. So what you create is for sure with your mind, even with your true nature of mind. It creates these beautiful circumstances for you, or these circumstances where you are in service to other people. But it's really, really important to understand that your mind creates it. Your karmic imprints are deep or shallow, and then you created those karmic imprints, and then they become your impelling consciousness, your impelling consciousness. So they force you into circumstances that you have to be in, which are the right circumstances for you to be in, with pain, with abandonment, with loneliness, with ugliness, with abuse, with everything. You know, those are the circumstances you created. And you now, the impelling consciousness takes you in. So to go back to my sister's question, but Melanie, I thought you taught us that you could choose your incarnation. You know, you could choose it. I said, well, that if I told you that, I probably thought that many years ago. I don't think that now. I said, but if you are enlightened, yes, you can definitely choose the circumstances that you will go in. If you are going to incarnate, you don't even have to incarnate. But if you're doing it for service, you could choose. Someone like the Karmapa chooses Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, Dachim Rinpoche, these beautiful masters. They choose the circumstances where they want to be born. And sometimes they tell their disciples prior to their death where they're going to be reborn. So they do have a choice. They're not pulled by the impelling consciousness, which is such an interesting thing, isn't it? We are pulled by impelling consciousness. So my impelling consciousness told me that I had to come into this life, and there were many people that I had taught before that I was going to have to teach again, and lots of them couldn't come with me on the rest of my journey. I could only take them up to here their own decision. Now, it's so interesting because one particular person texted me yesterday who I taught long ago, many years ago, and she texted me, she's just arrived back into the groups and everything, and she texted me yesterday that she said, you know, for a long time, I just couldn't go with what you were now teaching. But now I love it. I'm ready. So it took her a couple of years to stay away, and now she's back and loves it. Why? Because she needed that time and space for her mind to change and receive it. Whereas lots of people that I taught like 30 years ago, and a lot of people I taught long ago, and they've come with me on the journey, but a lot of people that I taught long ago just dropped out. And sometimes I meet them and they say, are you still teaching? And I say, yeah. Then they say, what you teaching? Oh, no, I'm not interested. You know, such an interesting thing to see what your impelling consciousness does for you and how you change and how you see that you don't want to be catapulted anymore. And Bern will remember in my dream group, Bern, I was telling them about you. I don't know if you heard that. And I said, we had about 9 or 10 dream groups of analyzing dreams and all of that kind of thing. And then I said to her one day, that's it. She said, what? I didn't know what I was doing. It was my impelling consciousness. I said, I'm not doing these groups anymore. Something's got to come that is different. And within a little while, Lama Yeshe gave me the empowerment for Tibetan dream yoga, which was completely different to what I was doing. And now in my evening group where I'm doing the dreaming, I'm telling them all, let's look at some of the psychology of the dreaming that I did do long ago. But myself, I don't really want to look so much at the psychology of dreaming. I'd rather look at the Tibetan dream yoga, which goes from the psyche, the human psyche, to the alaya substrate consciousness where your imprints are, to primordial consciousness. So whichever level you're going on, you can all go and listen to this dream of Western psychology, you'll enjoy it. But wherever your level is, whatever you're needing, that's what you create to come to. And some people come to other things, the primordial, they're not interested. They're not ready yet. So it's all your creation. Let's quickly do a meditation, and then you can ask me whatever you want. Okay. So I just want you to breathe in and breathe out. Come to this moment. What we're doing is really important because a lot of you are ready to move on. Some of you might not, but I think all of you are actually ready, very ready to move on. And I think you will move on. And I think you'll move from the human psyche, which you still need in this world, your human consciousness, which has 8 levels, your senses, your mind, your emotional content of the mind, and then your alaya consciousness, and moving from that into a deeper level of the substrate consciousness where your karmic imprints are stored like a memory chip, into your primordial consciousness, which has a totally different viewpoint. So starting in the interaction between your psyche, where all your psychology is and everything, and your substrate or alaya consciousness, which is where all your imprints are, the imprints you've created, I want you to just take a long path in your life, back and back and back, even though we always come back to the present moment, but just to see, take yourself back and back and back, if you can, right into your childhood, and just watch your journey. See the similarities in your journey, your losses, your school career, whether you did well or badly, what kind of teachers you had, siblings, parents, cousins, family. Just look deeply on your whole journey. Try and put this journey together with a mirror, looking at why you had this journey. This is something you can do over a long period of time to really find it. But for tonight, today, this morning, just look very quickly at some of your very, very poignant lessons, turning points, what you carried in you, how hard certain things were for you, how easy certain things were, how well or badly you did at school, your friends, what did they teach you? Into the end of school, you can do it slowly yourself, the end of school, how well or badly you did, what career you went into or no career, going into your adult life, what it was like for you, where you landed up, whether you had your parents or not. The most important lessons. Just assess your whole projected world that you created. No condemnation. No, I should have done better, I would have done better, I could have done better. Just look as though you were looking at a life that you had no control over, and you just see what were the particular lessons I had to learn into marriages, relationships, what you did, children you had. What are they there for? Bereavements, losses, financial stability or not, which comes from generosity in the past, struggles, illness. Look at your particular illnesses that you've had, psychological or physical. It's a long road when you start getting older, with so many lessons, so many projections, so many scarecrows, so many tin men, so many lions, so many wizards and wicked witches of the West and East, and good people, and letdowns. I want you just to have a little assessment of your life. Just conclude that you were in the right place at the right time, even though it felt so wrong. see if you can extract the deepest one or two real lessons that you've had in your life and what they were for, what they were overcoming. If you were a perfectionist, what did you need to overcome? If you were always late for things or didn't manage to get to places, missed the boat. You could do this for a number of hours when you're sitting on your shrine. But just try and see from the story of the Wizard of Oz, and when you watch it, how many of the things are the projections. And when it says in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, O noble son and daughter, notice you're called noble son and daughter, never O son and daughter, noble son and daughter. Know that whatever you see in the bardos are just a projection of your own mind. Don't be encapsulated by it. Don't see it as tangible and real. See it. It's just another experience in another life of thousands and millions of lives. Don't hang on to it. Don't hang on to anything. There's nothing to hang on to. This is just a temporary, transient, impermanent experience. The more you hang on, the more danger you will face. Just moving on. Do this when you're alone, everybody. Let's dedicate, and I'll definitely stay if people want to ask me, but otherwise next week we'll definitely do a question and answer and really look at some of these things. But let's dedicate for all the people going through suffering, for all the people who think they're victims in the world, for all the people who are really trapped in wars, for all the leaders who are making very unwise decisions. Just think about the leaders that are making unwise decisions or ego decisions when they're in such an important incarnation with a lot of power. And when they make unwise decisions, it makes a deep karmic imprint, which can take dozens of lifetimes to actually work through. It's so sad in many ways. If there's any merit from the story of the Wizard of Oz, may they all benefit from it. And through this merit, may all beings attain omniscience, may all obscurations fall away from the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. From the ocean of samsara, may all beings be freed. Sonamdiye tamche zipane topne nepe tranam pamshene jegana chi balap topaye sipe sole doa do warsho.